Hello, everyone. Welcome. My name is Cassidy Diamond. I am the Associate Director of Public Programs and Events here at the IDA. Thank you for joining us for this conversation around Seyran Ateş, moderated by KPCC's Amy Nicholson. Before we get started, I would like to offer a brief land acknowledgement. I'm coming to you today from Chicago, which is on the unceded land of the Potawatomi people, who have been stewards of this land for generations. I would also like to thank our sponsor, IndieWire, for their support in bringing the screening series to you all this fall. And as always, you can head to our website, documentary.org/screening-series to check out our upcoming screenings and have a look back at some of our previously recorded Q&As. But you're not here to hear from me. Let me hand things over to Amy Nicholson to get things started.
Hello, I'm film critic Amy Nicholson, and on behalf of the IDA, I'm so pleased that you have joined us for this conversation about Seyran Ateş, sex, revolution, and Islam. So please join me in greeting our wonderful filmmakers and stars of this film. We've got director Nefise Özkal Lorentzen, we've got producer Jørgen Lorentzen, we've got stars Seyran Ateş and Tugay Sarac. Welcome everybody, we are so glad that you're here to talk about the film. If you don't mind, I have to start with sort of a silly, light question. I want to start with the very first shot of the film. Seyran, your cat. I do have to know your cat's name.
And they have really nice, interesting names. The white one is Charlie Chaplin, and the gray one is Edgar Wallace.
So it's Edgar Wallace who gets the opening shot.
We call them Eddie and Chaplin.
Well, I appreciated their faces and seeing them as kind of, a counterbalance to everything else that's happening in this opening scene. I mean, the filmmaking team, you guys chose to start with like Seyran reading her hate mail. And I was curious, why start there and whose idea was it to have Seyran read them herself?
Nefise, you had the idea.
Yes, because I really wanted that the audience will, it's like, shaking hands with the audience, and the audience will really understand the life that Seyran Ateş has been dealing with, because she has been receiving these death threats all the time. And the way she was reading these death threats are also in a calm way. So I just wanted to show to audience both her, in a way, calmness and also the threats that she has been receiving. So we have been discussing a lot, my producer and my cinematographer and editor, but it is like, it is one way of shaking hands with the audience.
Is that calmness for you, Seyran, something that you've had to develop or learn? How do you get to that place of calmness to be able to do that scene?
Since 2006, I have police protection, and maybe since 30 years, people, or more than 30 years, that people are treating me like that. And I could say since as I mentioned in the film, so I learned very early that people call me whore or call me what I read there. And this was very important for me. It was not just reading the death threats, saying, I want to kill you. This was not enough. So I think it was good to start also with this all ugly things what women always hear when they stand up for women's rights and for freedom. So I get not used to those things, but I become another I become another person. I am adult now, I'm older, and I try to not accept the post, what is coming to me. So the energy, I send the energy back. So you can see that as a message, as a post, as a box, what somebody sent you per post, and you say, this person is not living here, so bring it back to the one who sent it. This is possible to learn, and I did it, and now I can laugh about that and say, it's your problem. This is their problem to call me a whore. It's their problem to call me traitor or non-Muslim, and whatever they call me, this is their psychological problem.
And to have them,
if I can add something, I just would add very quickly that the energy Seyran is having in this opening scene is also very important for all the women in the public sphere that is all the time receiving messages like this.
Yeah.
Because she's not alone, using sexualization and sexualized language against women that is taking space, opening their mouth in discussions and in public space. They're always met like this. And seeing Seyran's strength, I think, is also very important for a lot of women out there.
I agree. I mean, I'm sure I'm not alone in saying, like, I've had messages like that. I'm sure people listening have had messages like that. Almost any woman taking up space in the public has messages like that. So to see Seyran be able to navigate it so calmly, I think is really such a powerful opening. And it circles back again later, Tugay, when you're sort of reading the letters. And I'm wondering, do you remember first learning that your aunt was this polarizing figure?
Please.
No, it was. I don't think I can remember the first time that I realized that it was like that. I know that I was at my aunt's place, and then suddenly there were big men picking her up, and she went somewhere else, and I didn't really understand that this is police protection. And later I've realized, and I've had my problems with her during my phase of radicalization. So, but still, she was always my aunt. But yeah, I wasn't quite sure, to be honest, how to react on the work she does, because, as I said, I was radical.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like this whole film, this whole story that you guys put together, you kind of seem to match the energy of Seyran. Like when she's blunt, you let the film be very blunt. And, Nefise, I wanted to learn more from you. Like, I know that part of your backstory is that you yourself were really kind of personally shaken by the attacks of 9/11 here in America, and that for you, it was a moment where you began to question whether you could stay in your religion. And I'd love to learn more about like this process for you too.
Sure. Just right after 9/11, I was not sure if I belonged to this religion. And I had some friends, gay friends, and they were struggling and they wanted to be in this religion. So it was like my first, why do you stay and why do I want to leave type of thing. So I started to work on a project which is called Gender Me, about Islam and homosexuality. And then I made a film about Islam and feminism. It's called A Balloon for Allah, which I finished it in 2011. And then the final was Man Islam, and I was also working very much with Jørgen because he is also expert in masculinity. So we were, collecting all the men feminist men in various parts of the world, like Indonesia, Bangladesh, Pakistan, Turkey, Kuwait, and we did this film, Man Islam. So when I finished it, I was actually planning to make a film about female imams. And then my mother gave me an article about Seyran Ateş from New York Times. And I felt like Seyran really covers all the 3 films in one body. It was like, wow, I'm going to make a film about her. And it was a really fantastic meeting. And I said to Seyran, I'm not going to make a film about like a, advertisement film about her mosque or something like that. So the film was like my point of view, how I observe Seyran. And I was really observing what I really found very interesting is her leadership. And I was in a way in this film concentrating on leadership because I also thought that the audience can also be in a way blind to see Seyran with all the bodyguards, and we can easily define Seyran like the powerful man type of thing, So I just wanted to think that how can I really bring the Seyran that I observe, like my point of view? And then I asked her humbly, Seyran, is it possible that I can film you when you are lying down? And she said, okay. And then I decided to make, introduce Seyran to audience as a horizontal way. So it was like Seyran was not only telling her story, but she was in a way having some kind of an in-treatment with herself in the nature, and to that audience can grab her, that she becomes one part of the audience.
That's, yeah,
So,
I was curious about the nature imagery in here, because, in addition to like Seyran lying in the grass, you have two guys sort of rock climbing at a certain point. These images of them that are very much outside. I was curious what that meant for you.
Because I think Seyran can also explain it, because nature means a lot for Seyran, and also we talk about Mother Nature, and I also would like to bring this female leadership, which is horizontal. I describe Seyran as a horizontal imam, because she's always including everyone in her community, and I really didn't feel like she is the authority, and she has no problem in saying that, yes, I have the place, yes, I will speak out, but she's always including other people.
In the very first beginning, when she started the film, I told her, I accepted when you are not so much following me, please watch the congregation, watch the other people. Enough people have made documentaries or short pieces of films about my life, and I wrote 2 autobiographies, so enough people know about my life. So I'm tired to tell my story again and again, and that we end up with the portrait. So it was not my intention first, and I was a little bit sad about that, that it was like concentrating on my person, seriously speaking. But then finally, when I trust Nefise extremely, and when I finally see the product, then I could say, okay, she used me as the transporter of information, and this is how I see myself and this film. There are so many different issues, and it starts with me, and it starts with a very general, as we mentioned, issue for all women worldwide. And this is why I'm really thankful that we started with this point, that we always put sexualized and put in this corner of being a whore just because we stand up for freedom, etc. And then the film ended with my relationship much more with Tugay and Tugay's story. So the audience, I hope, can see what I've seen in this movie, and why I like it is to show that we open the door as adults, and me as the one who has all the experience and the possibilities and abilities, we open the door for the next generation. And my wish and my hope is that their voice should be here, people should hear their voice more, and we should give them as much as we can power, that they can speak out louder and louder what are their wishes for the future. And I hope the film was seen like that.
Yeah, I mean, well, as to women, trying to have these very public conversations about gender, masculinity, feminism, and Islam for the last 2 decades, were you aware of each other before this project came about, or like, how did you meet?
I got a lot of emails and phone calls, whatever, from people who wants to do a documentary and a piece of whatever about the opening event and about the story, how it's going on, and a documentary about me again. And so there was something like 40 ideas of different channels and people. And she was one of them, writing me a long email, and she sent me her links from her first 3 films. And I thought, okay, maybe she can be one of the different. Yeah, she makes maybe she can make the difference between the others, that she understood more the intention what I'm doing there because of her first 3 films. I love them. I really loved her movies, and Tugay is also shaking his head.
I love it,
We
yeah,
are really
definitely.
great fans of her, observing how she's as an artist and filmmaker, showing the stories about Islam and the different issues, and that was the reason why I accepted her. And so I first see just a journalist, just a filmmaker, whatever. She was somebody from media for me, as so many other people as well. I didn't know her before, but then very soon I realized that she looks different. She looks a little bit different, and more I realized that she's the same crazy like I am, and I trusted her very fast. I said, okay, let her go. This energy cannot be stopped like mice, and let her go. And I trust her. And I said, okay, I'm sure she will do very good work. And so I followed her till Beijing because I trusted her so much, and I would do that again. Yeah, and we become good friends, and not only good friends, she's like part of my family now. She become like my sister, and I see her like another aunt for my nephew.
Yes, thank you very much, Seyran. But I should also say that when we were filming, so I was not alone. So I was having lots of discussions with Jørgen, and I was having lots of discussions with my cinematographer Anders Hoft and my clipper Morten Haslerud and composer Simon Valentine. And also I use my sons in this film as advisors, because sometimes I feel like when I come with some, strange ideas or some edit, some clips, so friends are very nice. They say, oh, it's nice. Yes, it's really kind of, sometimes you don't really have this harsh criticism. And I work with my boys, my sons, and they were really, they were so skeptical to every single thing I do. I didn't have like, oh, go for it type of thing. I got it from Seyran, but these boys were really pressing me. So I think that was like, I think when you are really working, like you feel like you have the family and you really have the harsh critics. So you really try to do your best. And
yeah, but I have to add something. I don't just say go and I did what you said. No, I have to. Now I remember many times I said, stop. This is not the way how it could be. Let me just do it. So if just follow me with the camera and let me talk to the people. So she's sometimes much more jumping around and having 10 ideas the same time, and I have to say, please calm down. This is a mosque here, and some more patient, and not like saying it's like so. About the universe, it's everything is much bigger. So and then we had also those situations. So I was not just a sheep walking.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. No. But I think it was like, I think the way we were really, creating this film is based on trust, and of course, like, and I really felt like I was so free to tell like 20 ideas at the same time to Seyran. And usually you shouldn't do it because
no.
But I knew, because I the thing is, Seyran is also an artist, and you are an artist, and then
I filtered, but your ideas were perfect, so I could filter. And thank you mentioning Anders and all the other people. So I didn't see just Nefise, and I can just agree that there was a huge, great team behind her, and this was also fantastic for me and for my congregation, for Tugay as well. I guess he will say that himself, that there was a great team which become good friends.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like Tugay, your scenes really stand out to me. Like, I was just very struck by your bravery and your honesty throughout the film. you know, like, especially when you kind of come to the realization that it was like perhaps your fear of going to hell, that of being expelled from your religion for who you love, that put you on a path where you felt like you came close to adding more like pain and hate to the world. And I was curious, like, how can people, you feel, use what you've been so brave to share here to, you know, help other young men who are at risk of being radicalized?
You know, the reason why me and my aunt, Teyze, my Seyran, want to be so open is to show the people that they are not alone. You know, when I was a child, when I Googled 10 years ago, when I Googled Islam and homosexuality, the only things that came up were forums of radical Islamists and preachers that tell you, oh, do this and that, and then your homosexuality will go away. You are a bad person when you are gay, and so on. And if you Google it now, you will see lots of great activists. And I think if when I was young, it would have been good for me to see a gay Muslim there just doing his thing, saying, yes, you can be gay and you can be a Muslim and that's no problem. And yeah, you know, there's actually also a funny thing or interesting thing. The same preacher that radicalized me in my childhood, now like 10 years later, he made a video against me on YouTube. Because I'm openly doing this LGBT plus activism in Islam in Germany. So yeah, and in order to counter these videos, we have to produce lots and lots of more videos. And I know that I'm making myself vulnerable because I'm saying very, very, you know, intimate things, but I think that's what we have to do. Yeah.
Where do you find the strength to do that?
I find it in God. I trust him. I think this is good. And I also find it the strength in people that message us, that say that they are so thankful. You know, people are messaging us saying, if it wasn't for you guys, I would have killed myself because I wouldn't have, you know, I would have felt bad. You know, there's nothing I can do about my homosexuality. And this was the most important message I ever got. And then I have my family. I have this great team from Integral Film and so on. I can always talk to. We've got the mosque, my friends, and yeah, they are very powerful people.
And we tell him sometimes a week, sometimes every day, please think twice if you really want to go this way, and it's always possible to exit. So we are the adults, my sister and me. We are his first important person, but there are many others. And my sister and me, we always talk about it, and we don't want to have him sick about all the stories and that something happened to him. So we try to take care about his psychology as well as good we can, and so we talk to him. The communication is so important, and we sometimes do pressure on him to tell us all the stories what happened to him via social media. Sometimes we really have to ask 10 times that he's talking to us, because in the beginning he was a little bit more close about that, but now I can say that we have a very open dialogue about it, because all of us are growing, all of us are learning since 4 years. Huh? So,
yeah, because I also didn't want you to be scared, you know.
I
think it's very important that we keep doing it anyways, and I keep doing it.
Yeah, he wants to protect us, you know. Imagine, you know, this little boy wants to protect his mom and his aunt, that we are not scared about him, and we are scared about him, and the other way around. But the very most important thing is that he's just 24, so he should have the right to have a normal life as much as possible, and this is very important that we try to do our best that can happen.
So I'm realizing now for the first time that I think that it's Tugay's mother, who's sitting next to your sister as you're kind of around the train set telling this immigration story. I hadn't put that together exactly. I mean, I thought that was such a neat way to kind of tell the story of your family moving here from Turkey. And I was curious, you know, like you talk about kind of awakening when you're looking around your neighborhood in Germany and kind of thinking like, I see these differences now between girls and boys, between girls from Turkey and girls from Germany. Do you think that those differences, I guess, just in the way that like the girls of your neighborhood were treated, would you have had that same awakening if you had stayed in Turkey, or was the culture even more constrict because it was in like a resettled immigrant culture in Berlin?
What I realized all year when we went to Turkey for holiday, every year I realized, and especially in the last years before I ran away from home, that in Turkey, some of my cousins and relatives are living much more modern than our families in Germany. And I realized that more and more in the further years, and especially in the last 20 years, Turkey made a huge step forward to Europe. And my family was just more traditional than others here in Germany. And in general speaking, guest workers' families, migrants, are much more conservative than the home country where they come from. And yeah, year to year, I learned much more. And now I'm 58, and I can say globally speaking, it's a question of migration. It's a question of keeping old traditions, or traditions what you take with you when you move somewhere else, and when you immigrate, then you try to keep that close in your box as much as you can, because you're afraid that you could lose it if you open your heart for this place where you are now immigrated. And we don't have to forget that my parents were just guest workers. They didn't move to Germany, or they immigrate to Germany because they want to live in another country. They were not looking for a new home country. They were just looking for work and money to to feed their family. This is clear speaking. They just came for money, and they want to go back after 1 or 2 years. And this is the difference. That's why they were much more traditional and conservative than my relatives. Most of my relatives in Turkey. Yeah.
I mean, you and your mother in those opening scenes, that you seem close now. I was curious,
Yeah.
like how the two of you reconcile, because it seems like there must be its own story there about her questioning her own reasons for raising you as she did, and you guys coming to an understanding as adults.
And my mother herself, when she's changing between Istanbul and Berlin, so she's always going and coming, and she used to say, you know what, the Turks here in Germany, they are much more conservative, and there's much more backlash here in Germany than my mom and me, my parents and me. After I ran away from home, so the first 3 months I have to hide somewhere. I was really afraid, but then after a while we start communicating again, and it takes something like 10 years that we really come closer. And the reason is communication. I didn't give up my family, and I didn't give up communication. And I start asking her, why did you leave me alone in Turkey for a year? It was a trauma. And I started asking why she was like that to me, why she was beating me, why domestic violence happened in our house, why she's accepting this and that from my father, so, and patriarchy, and my father, him as well. So after a while, she could tell her story, and I listened to her. And it's not just forgiving, it's understanding. And I feel bad sometimes that I judged her for what she did with her 5 kids. She was 30 years old when she came to Berlin, and she had 5 kids. She couldn't read and write. And then I felt so bad to judge her that way. And all those beatings and all the things what I had to do to help her become so less that I was ashamed about that after a while. So, and we become good friends because she said, you know, I was just a woman. My dad didn't allow me to go to school, and my husband didn't allow me to go to work, and so this is my story. And my father also started telling me his story. He said, you know what, I'm depending on my surrounding. It's for me, unfortunately, it's important what people are thinking about me and my daughter, and honor and all this stuff is important in my culture and my tradition. So I learned that like that. I don't know something else. So please forgive me, being that I will try my best to change that. This is what my father said. And then I said, okay, when he can be, so I have also give up some judgment about my parents, and they stand on this side, I on this side, and everybody has to do a step to meet each other in the middle. And that's what we did, and we become good friends, and I'm so thankful for that.
I mean, what's so powerful about what you just shared is that you're kind of really saying clearly that people never stop learning. Like there's never a time where people can stop sort of growing and learning and understanding themselves better, and that people don't have to be set in one way of thinking, you know, if they start to have more questions asked. Honestly, I thought that was kind of one of the distinctive things about this documentary overall, is that it feels like a documentary that asks more questions than it answers. You know, usually documentaries are like, let me tell you about a thing, but this feels like a film that wants to ask questions to see how other people feel like answering them. It feels like when it's very prodding and questioning. I mean, one of the questions that you even raised in the film, you know, I think maybe the question in the film is, you know, how can devout, faithful people speak out about the issues that they have with modern day political Islam, while also caring so deeply that they don't want Islam to be associated with only like negativity and hate. I mean, that feels like the paradox that everybody here is facing with making a film like this.
Jørgen, maybe you will say something about it. So you are much more the observer. I like this what you said, Amy, that there are much more questions. I like to have much more questions, and also the question how can we help our kids? And
yes,
Jørgen.
Of course, this film is going straight into one of the most important and pressing global issues and debates today. And we all know that the question of radical Islam, political Islam, has actually changed the world. Not only for Muslims, not only for the people that have been victims of this devastating violence, but it has changed the world and how we move around for all of us. So it's so important to go into these questions or this debate and ask these questions and open up for reflections, understanding, different voices. And if we just go out there and say, you have to do this, you have to do that, I don't think we will be able to create this debate and this change that we really want to create. And we hope that this film will be a part of this change. And Seyran is already a part of that change. So I am very happy that you're seeing this, Amy. And I think it's an important point that, but I also think Tugay should say something about it, because this is very much into his reflections and his changes, going from a radical Muslim to the wonderful guy he is now.
Yeah, I mean, raising questions is so important. You know, there were two things that made me rethink my own radical mind, my radical interpretation of Islam. On the one hand, as I said in the movie, it was my aunt, and that was the most important part. But the second question was the question, why do you believe, you know, like, why do you believe in a God that wants to let you burn for an eternity just because you are gay and you can't change anything? You've prayed that it goes away, but it didn't. So this question made me rethink everything. And I think it is so important that if we want to change something, we don't want to tell people what to do. We don't want to tell people this is the way and this is the only way. I think it's very important to have these questions and for people to do their own research, just like we all did and I did. Yeah, so that's why I really appreciate this movie. It doesn't give you easy answers. It gives you the tools, I think, to think about certain problems in our societies. And yeah, I love it. It's, I haven't seen the movie until it was finished. And then I thought, wow.
Yeah. I hope you say finished. This is the key word for me. I hope the audience and you also can see that it's not finished, So I told many times to Nefise, oh, Nefise, you know what happened now? This happened and this happened, and you should also had this in the film. So it's really running now since 2 years. For example, we had the first supper, but she was had as the first idea. Maybe you can tell that.
Sure. Actually, at the beginning, I was planning to have several female imams in this movie. And I had this idea that all the female imams are coming to northern Norway and like snow, and they are going to make it, the first supper. Because we know all about the Last Supper and the First Supper. I think it is the female leadership, all the female imams, they will create this First Supper. But then I changed my mind and I decided to follow Seyran because I felt like really she carried all my 3 other films in one body. And so that was a very tricky decision because I have never done a film I never portrayed a person. And it's like, you feel very fragile because, what happens if things doesn't work out? So, and I think there is the cross section between me and Seyran, we really respect to each other's freedom. And we really respect to each other's field. And we were also at the same time very playmates. I mean, I really feel like when I was talking to Seyran, I can talk she's a lawyer, she is very rational. I'm an artist, I have my rationality, but maybe I'm more flying, but she's an artist. I mean, we really met each other. I think the reason maybe she said yes to me because of my metaphors. So my metaphors really matched to her metaphors. So it was like we were really communicating, and sometimes we were like, looking at each other's eyes and we know which way we will go. So it was like very special. And then we also had this experience in China. And I really felt like, we had some difficulties in China in filming. And Seyran could have said, okay, I'm finished, just fix yourself, I'm traveling back. And she said, no, we are a team and we are going to be together. And I think it is this type of experiences, in Turkish, we say that you should really, you know about each other when you travel. And we traveled a lot. And so I know about Seyran. For example, Seyran cannot eat onions. So I have to just, all these small details that you know about each other. So.
But and I can add something. What happened in France 3 weeks ago? This is what was in the dream of Nefise, that 4 religious leaders from Germany meet 4 religious leaders from France, female religious leaders from France. We met in France in a castle. We had a nice service, and we had 7 days really luxury communication and dialogues. And we all came from 4 religions: Catholic, Protestant, Jewish, and Muslim. And we had yeah, our partners from France and from Germany, as I said, and that was really, we were sitting on the table and had breakfast, lunch, dinner, and talks and communicate about special issues. And I said, "Oh, Nefise, you should be here to film this supper, first, middle, and last, every suppers." And this is the way how it will go. And yeah, it's developing. You know, I couldn't imagine that 10 years ago. What happened now, and the energy of Nefise's idea of bringing female religious leaders together is also in my life, and so we all are together fighting against the patriarchy and patriarchal structures inside our religions, and that makes, I hope, also clear in the film that we are fighting together against misogyny systems.
Well, very much, because I'm picturing that table. And you're absolutely right. Like, even watching this film, I thought these questions of who's going to hell and for what reason that people believe, or like whether women are allowed to leave a church, these are happening in all religions, you know, and they're very universal questions.
Absolutely.
And so I think that, yeah, you've made such an important film. I know that, like, as we wrap up here, I know that Seyran, one of your kind of mantras through the film is you need other people to speak up and other people to contribute to the conversation. And I feel like this film that you guys have made really does that. It really adds to the full picture of Islam to sort of counterbalance everything that you would know if you were just watching the news. So on behalf of the IDA, I want to really thank you guys for being here. You know, thank you again. Thank you, Nefise. Thank you, Jørgen. Thank you, Tugay. Thank you, Seyran. Thank you to our wonderful interpreter, Andre Lust, always here, always being wonderful, translating all of our questions. And yes, please spread the word about this film. Please spread the word about Seyran Ateş, Sex, Revolution, Islam. And thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.